So we have an injury update from a major champion on the WWE Monday Night Raw brand, and it's been reported that a top WWE superstar is reportedly dealing with a concussion, that being Raw Women's Champion Asuka. Now, Raw Women's Champion Asuka is still out of action because she's reportedly dealing with a concussion. Asuka lost a tooth taking a stiff kick to the mouth from WWE Women's Tag Team Champion Shayna Baszler during the February 22 Raw show, but she also suffered a concussion during the spot. This is according to the Wrestling Observer newsletter. Now, there's no word on when Asuka might be medically cleared to compete, and there's still enough time that she might be able to work WrestleMania 37, but that is not a given. WWE had plans for Charlotte Flair to challenge for the Raw Women's Championship at WrestleMania, but it will depend on Asuka's health. This is the second time that Flair's WrestleMania 37 match has been put in jeopardy, as they originally had her scheduled to feud with Lacey Evans, but of course we now know that Lacey Evans is pregnant, so that match isn't happening. So when it comes to this news story, this is what I wanted to talk about, because when it comes to Asuka's luck, you would think over the last sort of 9 or 10 months or so, it's been incredibly unfortunate. It's been incredibly unfortunate. Look, 12 months ago, and I spoke about this in the video when we spoke about WrestleMania and the capacity update, you can go check that out on the channel. When it comes to Asuka during the past 12 months, she really has been an MVP for Monday Night Raw. And I don't mean MVP the wrestler, I mean a most valuable player. In those early shows from the Performance Center, those early episodes of Monday Night Raw, it would be a difficult argument to make that Asuka wasn't the most entertaining person on that show. During a difficult time where WWE and professional wrestling didn't really know what to do, didn't really know how to adapt to this new empty arena setting, to a show and industry that thrives of audience participation, WWE, they really didn't know what to do. And in those really early Performance Center shows for Monday Night Raw, Asuka was a standout. So much so that they would put Asuka on commentary just to make a match or a segment seem more entertaining. I remember, this is a superstar that they get to cut promos in Japanese. Asuka can speak English. She can speak very good English. But they had her cut promos in Japanese because she was just so entertaining during matches and segments that had nothing to do with her. I vividly remember I think it was a match of Andrade. I don't know who he was facing, but a match of Andrade, and just Asuka was on commentary. Why? Because they needed someone to be entertaining, and that was Asuka. So she built up all of this momentum, being so entertaining, being so charismatic, that when Becky Lynch was revealed to be pregnant and she was going on maternity leave, there was only really one person that could take the spotlight and take the ball from Becky Lynch and run with it, and that was Asuka. That's why she won that Money in the Bank ladder match. That's why she became the Raw Women's Champion. And you feel for her, at least I do, I feel for her, because over the course of the last year, you look at, especially in recent months, but over the course of the last year, some of the creative that she has been given on Monday Night Raw, it's just been atrocious. I mean, I know that show at times on Monday nights, that 3-hour long show has been atrocious at times, but you look at Monday Night Raw and compare it to SmackDown now. And obviously, SmackDown is light years ahead of Monday Night Raw in terms of quality, in terms of being watchable, and all that kind of stuff, in terms of storytelling, everything. It's just a better show. Fundamentally, from top to bottom, it's a better show. And one of those things is the women's division. The women's division is better on SmackDown. Not necessarily because of talent. Of course, they've got great talent on SmackDown. They've got Sasha Banks, they've got Bayley, they've got Bianca Belair, the list goes on. But Raw still has its good talent. The difference between the women's division on Raw and SmackDown is the storytelling and the ideas. And you look at Asuka, and again, you sympathize for her because Asuka went for such a period of time, especially in the early parts of 2021 and the end of 2020, where she faced no one. There was a period of time, I think she had a feud with Zelina Vega over the Raw Women's Championship, and then she just did nothing. She did nothing. There was nothing wrong with Asuka at all. She just did nothing. And the reason was because Charlotte Flair was going to come back and WWE were focusing on other things, and just the creative that she wasn't given was terrible. And you kind of felt that this blame of, the Raw Women's division is doing terrible and it's boring and all that kind of stuff, it wasn't Asuka's fault. That's a creative issue. It's one thing to be given creative and not be able to make it work or not be able to hit it out of the park or anything like that. But when you're given nothing and you're not being booked on the show, that's not Asuka's fault. That's not Asuka's fault. And when you look at WrestleMania, you think that Asuka has really carried that women's division and been a backbone of that women's division, that failing women's division on Raw for the past 12 months or so. She was given the ball in a difficult situation where you've got Becky Lynch going on maternity leave. Ronda Rousey she's still with the company, but she's not basically with the company anymore. And then, of course, Charlotte Flair goes down with an injury. So you've got all of these big stars not available on Monday Night Raw. And Asuka does what she can, especially with the bad creative. And at one point, she wasn't even factored into the Raw Women's Championship plans at WrestleMania. If I'm Asuka, I'd be furious. I've put in this hard work all year. All year I've put in all this hard work when other people weren't here, and your big grand plan for WrestleMania is to have Charlotte Flair versus Lacey Evans for the Raw Women's Championship. You have to shoehorn Charlotte Flair into that spot with Lacey Evans and involve Ric Flair. I mean, if I'm Asuka, I'm thankful that Lacey Evans is pregnant, because I would say this is a joke. I mean, it really would be such a slap in the face to Asuka. Now, I understand that you do what your boss tells you to do and all that kind of stuff, but if you were Asuka, you would absolutely feel slighted by that. You would have to. You'd have to, really. After all the hard work I've put in this year, you're going to swap me out for this soap opera storyline, which everyone rolls their eyes at, because they go, oh, great, another Ric Flair and Charlotte Flair storyline on Monday Night Raw. Great. We've never seen that before, right? No, we've only seen it like 3 or 4 times over the course of the last 3 or 4 years. It feels like, it's so common at this point. Nevertheless, so Lacey Evans, she's pregnant, so she's out of WrestleMania. And then it's basically revealed. I mean, the way that they've even gone about this is Charlotte Flair is basically saying, I'm challenging for the Raw Women's title at WrestleMania. But why? Well, she just is, because she's Charlotte Flair. Okay. And again, I don't really put the heat on Charlotte Flair. I must emphasize this as well. I know lots of people put heat on Charlotte Flair for this stuff and go, oh, I hate Charlotte Flair. She's always involved and she's always, challenging for titles and all that kind of stuff. In the same way that it's not Asuka's fault, that's not Charlotte Flair's fault. What's she going to say? No, don't put me in that spot. No, the blame there has to be on, again, the creative team and the officials and Vince McMahon and Bruce Pritchard. They're the guys that are pushing that. It's not Charlotte Flair lobbying for that spot as far as we're aware. It's them going, look, it's Charlotte Flair. She has to be involved in the championship spot at WrestleMania every single year. Every single year. There hasn't been a year where she hasn't been involved in a championship spot. You can track it back. WrestleMania 32. She's involved in the championship spot. She won the match, triple threat match. WrestleMania 33, Fatal 4-Way. She didn't win that match. WrestleMania 34 against Asuka. She was in that match. She won that match. WrestleMania 35, she's in the main event. She didn't win that match, but she's involved in that match. WrestleMania 36, she's involved in a championship match. So much so, she wasn't involved in the Raw or SmackDown Women's Championship. So they went, okay, we've got a challenge for a title. Let's just put the NXT Women's title on there. And she won that. So when it comes to WrestleMania, talk about streaks. I know the Undertaker streak isn't a thing anymore, and I know Charlotte doesn't have an undefeated streak, but talk about streaks of being involved in championship matches at WrestleMania. She's rivaling Hulk Hogan and John Cena at this point. And again, that's not her fault. I mean, she's only being booked in that spot, but again, you roll your eyes. But getting back to Asuka, again, you sympathise for her because at one point she's out of WrestleMania because for a terrible storyline, but then Lacey Evans is pregnant, so she's back in. And to be honest, I wasn't crazy about the Asuka Charlotte Flair potential match at WrestleMania anyway, because look, it would be a good match, and it would be a good match. They do have great chemistry together, and every time they faced off, they've had great matches. Their match at WrestleMania, I mean, if it wasn't for Ronda Rousey and teaming up with Kurt Angle against Stephanie McMahon and Triple H, arguably they would have stole the show. I mean, Asuka and Charlotte Flair had a fantastic match at WrestleMania 34. Didn't necessarily agree with the outcome, would have preferred Asuka's streak to carry on, but that's in the past. I thought they had a great match. They had a match. Was it on SmackDown when they had the year of the whole triple threat winner take all thing? Whenever it was that Charlotte Flair defeated Asuka for the SmackDown Women's Championship, the match itself was great. Again, didn't agree with the outcome. There's a recurring theme there, but it was a good match and they have good chemistry. So while I wasn't thrilled about the idea of Asuka versus Charlotte Flair again at WrestleMania this year, the positive coming out of that was it's going to be a good match. Charlotte Flair is a very, very good pro wrestler. She's arguably the best wrestler, or one of the best pro wrestlers on the female roster. Asuka is up there as well. They have great chemistry. Yes, we've seen it, and I'm one of those people that I like to see new things and different things at WrestleMania. That's what makes it so exciting. But it would be a good match. It would be a good match. And I thought, okay, well, we can get behind that. It would be a good match. But now, with the possibility that Asuka might be out of WrestleMania, it's just incredibly disappointing, isn't it? It's incredibly disappointing, and you sympathise for Asuka because, as I mentioned, she's been given really nothing. Since becoming champion, she's been given really nothing creatively for 12 months. She then gets kicked out of WrestleMania for a bad storyline. And now she might be out because of an injury as well. It's very disappointing. Of course, there's still time, like we were saying. There's still about 4 weeks or so. So it depends on the severity of the concussion. It really does. If it's a mild one, she could be back next week. It could be 2 weeks, but we know how these concussions can vary. And there are some people that they can be out for months. Of course, Alexa Bliss had a couple concussions. She was out for a long period of time. Samoa Joe. He got his last concussion nearly 12 months or so ago, and he still hasn't returned to the ring. We don't know the status around him when it comes to concussions. They're a lot quieter about it. They don't like to publicize it or anything of that matter. So I doubt we'll get a line or an official statement from WWE or Asuka about her injuries. We'll find out, I guess, relatively soon, because they've got to build to a match of some kind. So either Asuka drops the title, vacates it, I don't know. I'm sure that WWE would probably act relatively quickly. I would think they probably give it a couple of weeks. In about 2 weeks or so, when we're only a couple of weeks out of WrestleMania, they're going to have to make a decision, aren't they? So I guess we'll find out relatively soonish. But if it is the case, I mean, and fingers crossed, of course, that Asuka does make it for WrestleMania. If she doesn't, it opens up the possibility on who on earth would Charlotte Flair face off against. I mean, really, because, again, the damage has been done to that women's roster there that no one... Not that no one feels ready to be at that level, because there's plenty of quality superstars on the women's roster on Monday Night Raw, but the way that division's been booked over the course of the last 12 months would make you wonder that, you know, if you were booking the Raw Women's division correctly, there would be plenty of people that you could go, yep, they can step right up and it wouldn't be a problem. Because of the bad way that they've booked that division, it doesn't feel like many people are ready. Now, the first name that springs to mind, I say probably would be worth looking at and see if they could step up, would be a Peyton Royce. Because Peyton Royce, I don't know if you saw her promo this past week on Raw Talk. I mean, everyone was talking about it on social media after Monday night. Arguably, the thing that people were talking about the most coming out of Raw this week was nothing that happened on the show. It was on Raw Talk. If you look at social media, everyone was talking about that Peyton Royce promo where she basically just said, you know, why not me? Why not me? Because remember, and this is so fascinating, that when the Iconics were split up randomly on Raw last year, all of those reports were that Peyton Royce, Vince McMahon's a big fan of Peyton Royce. She's going to get this big push. And Peyton Royce, she's going to be pushed to the moon on Monday Night Raw. That's why they split them up, because Peyton Royce needs to be a single and being part of a tag team, whatever. Still a bad decision, but okay. If you're going to push Peyton Royce to the moon, that's great. But they didn't. They didn't push Peyton Royce at all. If anything, they did the opposite. They put her in another tag team. And it kind of just baffled the mind, because when you split up a tag team to put together two single stars to form another tag team, I mean, it was ludicrous. It was ludicrous. And again, it goes back to the bad booking of female talent on Monday Night Raw over the course of the last 12 months. It's a great example. It's a great example of that. So why not Peyton Royce? Why not? I mean, I'm not massive on multi-person matches for WrestleMania, but I think this could be something a bit interesting. Make it a triple threat. Make it a fatal four-way. You know, put in a Charlotte Flair, a Naomi, a Peyton Royce, a Mickie James. You know, Mickie James is just, well, way too much of, I know she's a veteran, but way too much of a talent just to be sitting around doing nothing on Monday Night Raw. I mean, everyone, do you remember the buzz on social media when it was Mickie James versus Asuka? People go, this is going to be a great match. Finally, they're using Mickie James properly on Raw, and then the referee botches the finish and they never address it ever again. You know, bad booking. It's just, that's what it's been. That's what it's been on Raw when it comes to the women's division for the last 12 months or so. So certainly would be really disappointing if that's the case of Asuka. I really hope she does recover, because as I mentioned, not totally thrilled about Asuka versus Charlotte Flair, because we've seen it before, especially at WrestleMania, but it would be a great match. My concern about it, again, would be that I think the outcome would be the same that it is every single time, and that would be that Charlotte Flair wins. I know that Asuka did technically get a victory over Charlotte Flair on Raw last year, but that was because of interference from Nia Jax, and then Charlotte Flair went on the shelf with the injury, wasn't she? So every other time, and I think it was a week before that, or literally the day after she dropped the NXT Women's Championship, she beat Asuka on Raw, because Charlotte Flair beats Asuka. That's how it works. So I would think that if we do get Asuka versus Charlotte Flair's winning at WrestleMania, because that's just what they do. That's what they do. So hopefully that Asuka can get back for WrestleMania, because for her sake and for the amount of work and the amount of good work that she's done with that women's division, despite difficult circumstances over the course of the last 12 months, I would hope she gets her chance to walk into WrestleMania as Raw Women's Champion. So fingers crossed, let's touch wood that she's okay, but certainly is going to be interesting. But of course, as always, it's just one man's opinion. What are your thoughts on Asuka dealing with a concussion and possibly being out of WrestleMania 37? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I'll do my best to respond and reply to all of your comments. Really enjoy interacting with you guys, talking about WWE, AEW, Impact Wrestling, New Japan Pro Wrestling, all things pro wrestling here on the channel. So be sure to get involved in the community, drop a comment below. All opinions are welcome. If you have enjoyed this video, please do smash a like on the like button too. It really does help us out here on YouTube. Go up the rankings. and get into people's recommendation feeds if they haven't seen our videos previously. But most importantly, if you haven't already, please do subscribe to WrestleNews 365. You can do that by clicking the bottom right hand corner of the screen right now, or if you wait a few seconds, there'll be a subscribe button at the end of this video along with another video for you to watch. Thank you very much for watching, listening, streaming, or have you come across this video today, and I'll speak to you again very, very soon.
Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.